Hey guys, so I was sitting here thinking about the cyclicalness of nature, and I love that. There is, I don't know, there's like a comfort and a depth in the cyclical nature of nature, you know, um, in the seasons, the cyclical nature of the seasons, everything that happens within those seasons about life and death. Um, and I can understand why people, um, why we have celebrations around these cyclical benchmarks of nature throughout the year. Um, because there is something spiritual and connected about being in tune with those cycles. Okay, it's just like when you feel like you're in tune with these cycles, you feel like you're in tune with the fucking with God. And this is why, you know what I'm saying? We tell people, yeah, don't worship. You don't worship nature, but you can't help when you're living close to nature and you're appreciating the cycles of nature and you're flowing with those cycles. Um, you can't help but even feeling close to the creator, feeling close to God, because he is the divine creator of all these cycles, of all these things. So when you're living in tune with those, of course, you're going to feel tied to God, the maker of it all, right? If they're his cycles, he created them. And yeah. And the further I find myself in my heart wanting to become, I am more drawn and I want to become closer and I want to participate in that. I want to participate in that cycle somehow. And I think that this desire and this feeling is what draws people to want to have land and want to have farms, because doing these things, or homesteading, it's like when you're doing these things, it's like you're jumping in that cycle of life. You feel more connected. I think that's why when people live outside of that and they kind of just start to feel like life has no meaning, or what's the purpose of life, because they're kind of living a little bit far from nature, a little bit far from the cycles of what's going on around them, all around them. Like, that's why people start to do things like take walks and take hikes in nature, you know what I'm saying? Because they want to feel that closeness with the creator and with the cycles of everything that's going on around them. Maybe that's why when people work the 9 to 5 grind and they start to get a little bit sad and depressed. And they want more out of life. Well, what is the more that they want? We want more. We want more richness, like a rich chocolate cake. We want more quality. And we find that quality by being ingrained in nature, or being ingrained in that cycle somehow. No matter how people like choose to find that for themselves, like maybe they live in the city and they work a 9 to 5, but they have a whole patio garden in the back, and it makes them feel good. Why? It's just something about planting something and about the mysterious processes of the germination, and then seeing the life grow and nurturing that, you know, and then understanding how pollination works and how things bear fruit. It's very wholesome. It's very wholesome. It's a wholesome life. And I think that's what my mother-in-law used to say too. See, like the generation that grew up down home in the hollers or in the country, the life was more filled. Yeah, sure, I'm not going to sit here and glorify it by any means, because a lot of those people got abused too and had bad experiences and negative experiences. But there was a more wholesome nature to it at the same time. I ain't gonna romanticize it, you know what I mean? But I'm just talking about they had the opportunity to live closer to nature than a lot of us did. And you know, sometimes we complain about not those skills or just those things that were built into people from being living closer to nature, like wasn't passed down through history. Well, it's not their fault. Like, we're products of the environment, you know what I'm saying? And then that's how we change over time, because when you're not in a specific environment anymore, like, you don't really need those things anymore, so they kind of just get lost in translation, right? And then we try to, like, you know, on YouTube you see like homesteader, prepsteaders, you know, people are trying to get all this wisdom and knowledge and information from the past, like survival skills, things like that, like, to us, you know. But in all honesty, if you're not living a life that really like requires this information on a daily basis, it could be very hard to retain, I feel like. Or it could feel very overwhelming because it's not matching up with life currently. You have to like find a way to like implement it. So, you know, people like, you know, they get into canning and stuff like that and they feel good about that. That could be a way that they feel like they're living closer to nature too, closer to the cycles, because you can when it's harvest time so that you can preserve over the winter, so that you can have it preserved over the winter so you can have food. All right. And then the cycle starts all over, you know? So I think that there's no doubt about the fact that I think all of us have a moment in time where we just feel that emptiness, to be like, I want to live a more wholesome life, you know? Like, I want to be rich and successful, right? I want money. Who doesn't want money? Like, I want to provide for my family, right? But there's more to it than that. Like, it's just like, it would be nice if it was in like a wholesome way, you know, like a farm or something, where you get into a craft. That's another thing I wanted to mention is that when people grow up in the country, or, you know, like that, it's not just that they like learn these skills all in their brain or something. It's just like these skills and the way of life became a part of them. They became intimately acquainted. They were intimately acquainted with how to work in their environment, with how to do these things. I think that we need that piece, that heart piece, that passionate piece. It's not just all about head knowledge and knowing, you know, knowing as much things as you can. It's just, I think it's about becoming intimately acquainted with what you're doing. Having the heart in it. I just said, it's funny. I was watching this video about like this guy saying, you need to stop saying, like all these fillers. I thought, yeah, that's true. With my wine, I didn't, there I go again. All right. With my wine, I didn't know if it was still fermenting because I have all my projects in a closet, right? The hot water heater is like dark and kind of warm. Not too warm, but it's a good temperature in there. And I thought, I'm too far away from my projects. Like, I'm not feeling them. I'm not having my heart energy surrounding them, Anyways, I brought it out so I could sit with it on the table. My table's a mess. So open the blinds. And I saw it bubble. It bubbled, meaning it released some carbon dioxide or whatever. And so it is still fermenting, which is cool. So there's no question about that I need to keep it. And the more videos about winemaking I watch, I'm like, oh yeah, duh, of course it's still fermenting. Like, people are like, it needs to sit for like 3 to 6 months. I was watching this other video, but this guy who's a homesteader, and he makes wine and stuff also, and he just was saying that wine is a testament to like learning patience, And I was like, that is so true. It's like one of the first things I realized about this whole winemaking thing. I'm like, okay, jumping into this hobby means this is a long-term hobby, because to enjoy anything from what I'm doing, it's going to take like a year or two. So, which is fine, because I like it. It gives me it gives me another framework of how to think about time and how to process time. I'm going to process time through wine. So, I think that's why, going out and harvesting these grapes and trying to get into making this product feels exciting. It feels life-giving, because again, it's just that thing with being in tune with nature or foraging, and it's like, oh, this is exciting, kind of hopping into the cycles of nature. Anyways, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. That being in tune or in some way with cycles of nature can bring life, and it brings richness, and it brings a type of wholesomeness that I think is worth celebrating. Because when you celebrate and it's tied to the cycles of nature and it's tied to your life, it feels more meaningful. The way that Christmas is now, it feels like meaningless.